Chosen one, listen to me carefully. What I'm about to share is not for everyone. This message is urgent and it is sacred. Only those who truly walk the divine path of God are meant to hear this. If you are not aligned with God's will, if you are not serious about your spiritual calling, then this message is not for you. But if you are still here, watching this, it is because God Himself allowed this message to reach you at this exact moment. Not early, not late, perfectly timed. There has been a reason you've felt watched, misunderstood, or even spiritually attacked. There is also a reason none of it has been able to destroy you. Witchcraft has been sent, intentions have been spoken, plans have been formed in darkness, yet none of it has worked on you. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why. God's favor over your life makes you untouchable in ways you don't even realize. Stay with me till the end, because what you'll understand today will bring you peace, clarity, and deep spiritual rest. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this confirmation. And comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are aligned, protected, and walking under God's favor. Who you are in the spiritual realm. Chosen one, before we talk about why witchcraft does not work on you, you must clearly understand who you are in the spiritual realm. Not who people think you are, not who circumstances tried to convince you that you are, but who heaven recognizes when your name is spoken in the unseen world. You are not ordinary. And I don't say that to inflate your ego. I say it because the spiritual realm does not respond to titles, money, looks, or noise. It responds to authority, alignment, and assignment, and your life carries an assignment from God. That is why your presence alone shifts atmospheres even when you say nothing. That is why you have always felt different, even as a child. You noticed things others ignored. You felt things deeply. You questioned life, purpose, and truth while others were comfortable staying asleep. In the spiritual realm, you are marked. Not marked by darkness, but sealed by God. This seal is not visible to human eyes, but it is unmistakable in the unseen world. When you walk into certain places, spirits recognize you before people do. That's why some people feel drawn to you without knowing why, and others feel uncomfortable around you without any logical reason. You don't have to announce who you are. Your spirit speaks on your behalf. Many chosen ones struggle because they try to measure themselves by human standards. They wonder why life felt heavier for them, why they faced resistance early on, why they couldn't blend in no matter how hard they tried. But the truth is this: you were never designed to blend in. You were designed to stand out spiritually, long before you ever stood out physically. In the spiritual realm, your obedience carries weight. Even when you feel weak, even when you feel unsure, your yes to God echoes louder than you realize. That is why attacks come in subtle forms. Doubt, fatigue, isolation, distraction. The enemy rarely starts with destruction when it comes to chosen ones. It starts with confusion. Because if it can get you to forget who you are, it doesn't need to fight you directly. But here is what you must understand. Your authority does not come from how perfect you are. It comes from who called you. God's authority backs you even on days when you feel spiritually tired, even on days when you feel emotionally drained. Heaven does not withdraw its covering just because you had a bad moment or a weak day. You are watched in the spiritual realm not because you are fragile, but because you are influential. Darkness monitors potential more than it monitors behavior. That's why some of you were targeted before you ever understood spirituality. The enemy saw what you could become before you did. You see, chosen ones are not dangerous because they are loud. They are dangerous because they carry light. And light exposes without trying. It reveals truth without effort. It disrupts lies simply by existing. That is why your silence often bothers people more than your words. That is why your growth makes others uncomfortable. You are a mirror, And not everyone likes what they see when they look at themselves through you. In the spiritual realm, you are not chasing protection. You are standing in it. There is a difference. When you pray, you are not begging God to cover you. You are aligning yourself with a covering that already exists. This is why your prayers feel different. This is why your tears carry power. This is why when you worship, something shifts inside you before anything shifts outside. You are not unaware. You are discerning. You are not sensitive. You are perceptive. You are not weak. You are refining. Many chosen ones were mislabeled their entire lives because people could not understand spiritual depth. But heaven never misunderstood you. Understand this deeply. The spiritual realm does not see you as broken. It sees you as becoming. It does not see your delays as failures. It sees them as divine timing. What looked like rejection in the physical world was often protection in the spiritual one. This is why witchcraft cannot casually work on you, because spells, intentions, and dark assignments rely on access, and access is denied when God seals a life. Your spirit does not respond to unauthorized voices. Your destiny does not move according to human manipulation. You don't have to fight to be chosen. You were chosen before the fight began. Your responsibility is not to prove your power, but to remain aligned with the one who gave it to you. And once you understand who you truly are in the spiritual realm, everything else begins to make sense. The resistance, the protection, the strange peace that shows up even in storms. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation. Take a breath. Let that truth settle in you. You are known. You are covered. And you are never as alone as you once thought. When you're ready, we'll go deeper. Because now that you know who you are, it's time to understand why witchcraft was sent against you in the first place. Chosen one, let me add something important here, because many of you need this clarity to fully rest in your spirit. The reason you often feel pressure without a visible cause is because spiritual weight is not always connected to physical events. Sometimes nothing is going wrong around you, yet you feel heavy. That heaviness is not weakness, it is awareness. You sense shifts before they happen. You feel changes before they manifest. This is part of your spiritual design. God trusted you with sensitivity because he knew you would not abuse it. You would seek truth, not control. Many of you tried to shut this part of yourself down. You distracted yourself, you overworked, you numbed your emotions, not because you were running from God, but because you didn't yet understand yourself. And God never punished you for that. He waited, patiently, quietly, because he knew the moment would come when you were ready to understand who you truly are. In the spiritual realm, maturity is valued more than speed. And you have been maturing even when you thought you were stuck. Every disappointment taught you discernment. Every betrayal sharpened your perception. Every season of isolation strengthened your connection with God. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are unfolding. And unfolding takes time. This is why your life cannot be rushed or rushed by others. This is why manipulation does not stick to you. This is why dark intentions struggle to find a landing place in your life. You are rooted, not perfect, but rooted. So when you feel misunderstood, remember this. Trees are never offended when birds don't understand their depth. They simply continue to grow, and you, chosen one, are growing exactly as heaven intended. Why witchcraft is sent against you in the first place. Chosen one, I want you to hear this calmly, without fear, without tension. Witchcraft is never sent randomly. Darkness does not waste energy. It does not chase people who are going nowhere. It targets direction. It targets potential. It targets alignment. So if you've ever sensed that something was working against you, understand this first. It was not because you were weak. It was because you were becoming strong. Witchcraft is reactive by nature. It does not initiate purpose. It reacts to purpose. When your life began moving closer to truth, closer to God, closer to your calling, something noticed. Not because you announced it, not because you showed off, but because alignment makes noise in the spiritual realm even when you are silent in the physical one. Many chosen ones assume attacks come because of something they did wrong. That is a lie that keeps people in guilt. Attacks often come when you are doing something right. When your spirit starts rejecting patterns that once controlled you. When you stop entertaining confusion. When you stop chasing validation. When you begin choosing peace over chaos. Darkness hates stability because stability leads to authority. Witchcraft is often sent through envy, jealousy, and unhealed wounds in others. Sometimes the people who smile at you are spiritually uncomfortable with you. They don't understand why your presence unsettles them. They don't know why conversations feel exposed around you. They don't know why they feel seen when you say nothing. So instead of healing themselves, they react. And reaction looks like manipulation, gossip, intention setting, or spiritual interference. But here is the truth that brings peace. Witchcraft is always sent from a lower position. It never comes from above. It always reaches upward, hoping to pull something down. And when something has to reach, it already tells you it lacks authority. Chosen ones often trigger insecurity without trying. Your growth highlights what others avoid within themselves. Your discipline reminds them of their excuses. Your silence confronts their noise, and rather than changing, some choose resistance. They don't want your life. They want your peace disrupted. Understand this. Witchcraft is rarely about you personally. It is about what you represent. You represent freedom. You represent obedience. You represent what happens when someone chooses God over ego, and that threatens systems built on control. There is also another layer. Some of you were targeted early in life, not because you were spiritually aware back then, but because darkness could already see your future assignment. The enemy studies trajectories. It looks for consistency, resilience, depth, and endurance. And many of you showed signs of strength long before you showed signs of understanding. This is why your attacks felt confusing. You didn't understand why life felt harder for you, why you faced rejection without explanation, why you were misunderstood in environments where you meant no harm. But the enemy doesn't wait for understanding. It tries to disrupt before maturity arrives. However, here is what witchcraft did not anticipate. You survived. You didn't break. You didn't lose your heart. You didn't turn bitter. And that alone shifted the balance. Chosen ones are often targeted in cycles. Right before breakthroughs. Right before clarity. Right before elevation. Because darkness senses transition. It feels momentum changing, and it panics. But panic leads to mistakes, and mistakes expose limitations. Witchcraft relies on fear, agreement, and attention. It needs participation to function fully. That is why confusion is often the first strategy. If it can make you question yourself, doubt God, or obsess over the attack, it gains temporary influence. But when you remain grounded, when you stay focused, when you continue trusting God quietly, the attack loses fuel. Some of you wonder why attacks feel subtle instead of dramatic. Because chosen ones are not easily shaken by chaos. So the strategy shifts to fatigue, emotional exhaustion, overthinking, isolation. The enemy hopes you'll disconnect from God on your own. But here is the irony. The more pressure you faced, the more you learned to depend on God. The more confusion you experienced, the more discernment you developed. The very thing meant to weaken you trained you. Witchcraft also underestimates timing. It moves based on urgency. God moves based on precision. Darkness rushes, God waits. Darkness reacts, God orchestrates. So when attacks seem to come and go without effect, it's because God allowed exposure without damage. You were shown just enough to stay aware, but not enough to stay afraid. Chosen one, do not personalize what was never meant to define you. Witchcraft was sent because something in you cannot be controlled. It was sent because your life refused to submit to systems that benefit darkness. It was sent because your spirit kept choosing truth. And the fact that you are still standing is not accidental. It is evidence. You were never meant to fight witchcraft head-on. You were meant to outgrow it. And you have. Now that you understand why it was sent, it's time to understand something even more powerful. Why it fails every time it tries to touch you. Why witchcraft fails when it reaches you. Chosen one, this is where your spirit can finally exhale. Because understanding why witchcraft fails against you removes fear at the root, not surface calm, real peace. Witchcraft does not fail on you because you are constantly praying, fasting, or fighting. It fails because it is not authorized to work in your life. That is the part many people misunderstand. Darkness does not need effort to attack. It needs permission to remain. And permission is something God has never given concerning you. You are not protected the way most people think protection works. You are not surrounded by fragile walls that need constant reinforcement. You are covered by divine authority. And authority does not negotiate with interference. Authority does not panic when challenged. Authority simply stands. When witchcraft is sent toward a chosen one, it does not encounter an open system. It encounters resistance it cannot bypass. Not because you are strong in yourself, but because your life operates under a higher order. Your spirit is governed by God's law, not human intention. Here is something many don't realize. Witchcraft works by agreement. It looks for fear, trauma, unhealed wounds, obsession, or attention to attach itself to. That is why people who constantly focus on attacks feel drained. Attention feeds influence. But chosen ones are built differently. Even when you feel tired, your spirit refuses to agree with destruction. God's favor on your life acts like a filter. Not everything is allowed to pass through. Some things are stopped before they even reach your awareness. There are attacks you will never know about because God intercepted them early. There are plans spoken in secret that collapsed before they formed. There are intentions that return to their sender without your involvement. This is not because you are special in a prideful sense. It is because you are assigned. And assignments come with coverage. Witchcraft also fails because it cannot override destiny. It can delay perception, but not purpose. It can create noise, but not direction. It can attempt confusion, but not identity. And every time it tries to interfere, it reveals its limitation. It has power only where God's authority is absent, and God's authority has never left you. Some of you noticed something strange. When attacks happen, they don't escalate. They fizzle out. They lose momentum. The intensity drops suddenly. And you wonder why. It's because witchcraft depends on sustained energy. But when it hits God's covering, it encounters resistance that drains it instead. What was meant to weaken you ends up exhausting the sender. What was meant to slow you down ends up redirecting you into clarity. What was meant to confuse you ends up strengthening your discernment. There is also a spiritual law at work. God does not allow unauthorized spiritual transactions to complete. If something is sent without His permission, it cannot finalize. It can attempt, but it cannot settle. It can approach, but it cannot attach. That is why you may feel brief discomfort, but not destruction. Pressure, but not collapse. Awareness, but not bondage. Chosen one, your life carries God's favor, and favor is not passive. Favor is active protection. It bends outcomes. It interrupts cycles. It causes things to work in your favor without explanation. Have you noticed how situations that should have ruined you somehow resolved? How accusations faded? How traps didn't close? How lies exposed themselves without your defense? That was not coincidence. That was favor operating silently. Witchcraft is limited by time. God is not. Witchcraft relies on human emotion. God relies on eternal purpose. Witchcraft requires secrecy. God requires alignment, and alignment always wins. Another reason witchcraft fails is because you don't fight it the way darkness expects you to. You don't spiral, you don't obsess, you don't retaliate, you don't live in fear. Even when you are confused, something in you remains steady. That steadiness frustrates every dark strategy. Chosen ones are dangerous because they remain calm under pressure. Calm is a sign of authority. Panic is a sign of uncertainty, and darkness thrives on panic. You may not always feel strong, but you remain rooted, and rooted things cannot be uprooted easily. God did not place you under His favor to make you arrogant. He placed you there so you could rest. so you could move through life without constantly checking over your shoulder, so you could trust that what is meant for you will reach you and what is not will never stick. Witchcraft cannot rewrite what God authored. It cannot cancel what heaven approved. It cannot steal what God sealed. That is why attacks against you often backfire, because when darkness touches favor, it exposes itself, it reveals motives, it brings truth to the surface, and God uses even that for your good. So stop asking why it didn't work. Start recognizing what it confirms. It confirms that God is actively involved in your life. It confirms that your destiny is protected. It confirms that you are moving in the right direction. You were never meant to live in fear of witchcraft. You were meant to walk in awareness of God's favor. And once you truly understand this, you stop feeling threatened. You stop overthinking. You stop scanning for danger. You start resting, and rest is where your real power lives. Now let's go deeper, because God's favor is not just protection. It is a living shield that moves with you. Chosen one, there is another layer to this that many never consider, and once you understand it, something inside you will finally quiet down. Witchcraft fails on you because your spirit is not spiritually open in the way darkness requires. You are not careless with your inner world. Even when you don't realize it, your soul has learned discernment through experience. You don't absorb everything. You don't internalize every word spoken about you. You don't allow every emotion to take root. That alone blocks access. Many attacks fail not because they weren't powerful, but because they arrived too late. By the time darkness tried to interfere, your spirit had already matured beyond that level. You had already outgrown the version of yourself that was vulnerable to manipulation. And darkness cannot attack what no longer exists. There are also moments when God deliberately allows an attack to approach you, not to harm you, but to expose it. Exposure neutralizes power. Once something hidden is revealed, it loses authority. That is why some of you suddenly became aware of intentions around you, not to scare you, but to free you. Awareness is not a warning of danger, it is confirmation of safety. Another reason witchcraft fails is because your life is not driven by ego. Ego creates cracks. Ego demands control. Ego reacts emotionally. But obedience creates stability, and stability cannot be easily shaken. When you stopped trying to prove yourself, when you stopped defending your name, when you stopped needing validation, you unknowingly closed doors that darkness once used. Chosen one, God also limits how much you need to know. Some of you think you should see everything spiritually, but if you saw everything God blocks, you would never sleep. So he filters information for your peace. He allows you to sense enough to stay alert, but not enough to stay anxious. That is protection too. There are spiritual battles happening on your behalf that you are not invited into, not because you are weak, but because they are above your pay grade. God handles what you cannot, and he does it well. You are not required to constantly declare victory. Your alignment declares it for you. Your obedience speaks louder than shouting. Your consistency speaks louder than confrontation. And here is something powerful. Witchcraft cannot imitate favor. It can imitate blessings, but not peace. It can imitate success, but not stability. It can imitate power, but not endurance. And endurance is where you live. That is why no matter what is sent, you remain standing. Maybe tired, maybe quiet, but still standing. So if you ever wondered why chaos visits but never stays, why storms form but never settle, why threats approach but never land, this is why. God's favor is not just around you, it is within you, and nothing sent against you can survive there. God's favor as a living shield. Chosen one, God's favor over your life is not an abstract idea. It is not a religious phrase meant to sound comforting. It is active, it moves, it responds. It adjusts itself to where you are and where you are going. Favor is not something you visit occasionally, it is something that travels with you. Many people think favor means things go perfectly. That is not true. Favor means nothing that is meant to destroy you is allowed to complete its assignment. You may still walk through storms, but storms do not own you. You may still face resistance, but resistance does not define your outcome. Favor does not remove challenge. It removes defeat. God's favor acts like a living shield because it adapts. When you move into new levels, favor adjusts. When your responsibility increases, favor thickens. When your calling expands, favor stretches to cover new ground. This is why you survive situations that others don't. Not because you are smarter or luckier, but because God anticipated your path before you walked it. Have you noticed how danger often misses you narrowly? How delays saved you from something you didn't understand at the time? How certain doors closed painfully, only for you to realize later they would have destroyed your peace? That was favor intervening, not loudly, quietly. Favor also works by confusing the enemy. Darkness thrives on predictability, but favor introduces unpredictability. Plans formed against you don't unfold as expected. Timelines collapse, people change their minds, circumstances shift suddenly, and no one can explain why. God's favor also protects your mind. Some of you should have lost hope long ago. You faced prolonged pressure, misunderstanding, and isolation. Yet something in you refused to break. That resilience is not self-made. It is favor sustaining your inner world when your outer world felt unstable. Favor also limits access to you. Not everyone is allowed close to your spirit. God filters relationships around chosen ones. That is why you lost people you didn't expect to lose, and why new connections appeared at unexpected times. Favor removes what drains you and attracts what strengthens you. Chosen one, understand this. Favor is not fairness. It is purpose-based protection. Others may question why you are spared, why you recover faster, why you keep rising. But heaven does not operate on human opinions. There are moments when God's favor causes attacks to backfire. People reveal themselves. Lies fall apart. Traps fail publicly, and you don't even have to speak. Silence under favor becomes a weapon. Favor also gives you timing. You arrive at the right place without forcing. You leave before things collapse. You sense when to pause. You sense when to move. That intuition is not random. It is favor guiding you. Even when you feel uncertain, favor is still working. It doesn't require your awareness to function. It simply requires your alignment. Chosen ones are often hardest on themselves. They think they must do more to deserve favor. But favor was never earned through exhaustion. It was granted through calling. Your job is not to strain for it. Your job is to remain connected to God. When you drift into worry, favor doesn't leave. When you question, favor doesn't disappear. God does not revoke covering every time you feel human. That is why witchcraft cannot penetrate favor. It is not built to compete with divine intention. It cannot outthink God. It cannot outmaneuver heaven. Favor is not loud. It is steady. It doesn't announce itself. It simply works. And when you truly understand this, something shifts. You stop feeling hunted. You stop bracing for impact. You stop living defensively. You start living confidently, because you know this truth now. You are not protected because you are afraid of attack. You are protected because you are walking in God's will. And God's will always carries its own shield. Next, I want to talk to you about something very important. Why you don't need to fight back, and why staying still is often your greatest spiritual strength. Chosen one, let me deepen this for you, because many of you are still trying to feel protected instead of trusting that you already are. God's favor does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like quiet restraint. Sometimes it feels like being slowed down when you wanted to rush. Sometimes it feels like isolation when you wanted company. But favor is wise. It sees farther than emotion. It blocks paths that look attractive but carry hidden consequences. It withholds what would inflate your ego before your character is ready to carry it. Favor also works in layers. There is visible favor and invisible favor. Visible favor looks like open doors, recognition, progress, and growth. Invisible favor looks like protection from accidents, protection from wrong relationships, protection from premature exposure, protection from spiritual burnout. And invisible favor is often more valuable than what people can see. Some of you wonder why your life has moved slower than others, why success didn't come quickly, why certain things took time. That was not denial. That was preservation. God knew what pressure would do to you at earlier stages. Favor delayed you so you wouldn't break under weight you weren't meant to carry yet. God's favor also guards your heart. You didn't become cold despite betrayal. You didn't become cruel despite injustice. You didn't become bitter despite disappointment. That softness you still carry is not weakness. It is favor protecting your humanity while you grow spiritually. Favor also teaches you when to let go. Chosen ones often try to hold things together that God is actively dismantling. But favor removes what competes with your calling. It removes distractions disguised as blessings. It removes people who would have drained you slowly. And although loss hurts, favor always replaces loss with alignment. Here is something important. Favor does not make you untouchable by struggle. It makes you unreachable by destruction. You may still feel pain. You may still cry. You may still feel tired. But collapse never completes its cycle in your life. You bend, but you do not break. You pause, but you do not quit. You rest, but you do not retreat. Favor also teaches your enemies restraint. Even when intentions are dark, something stops them from going too far. Words are held back. Actions are delayed. Opportunities to harm you vanish, and they don't know why. But heaven does. Chosen one, favor also gives you recovery power. You don't stay down long. You don't remain confused forever. You don't stay lost. You recalibrate. You return to center. You find clarity again. That ability to recover is not self-generated. It is divine reinforcement. Some of you have survived things you never fully processed, and yet you're still here, still loving, still believing, still searching for truth. That is favor cushioning your soul while God continues His work in you. Understand this clearly. Favor is not fragile. It does not disappear when you make mistakes. It does not abandon you when you question God. It does not punish you for being human. Favor is patient. It corrects without condemning. It guides without controlling. That is why witchcraft fails. Not because it doesn't try hard enough, but because favor absorbs impact and neutralizes intent. Darkness hits a wall it cannot see, cannot measure, and cannot overcome. So stop checking whether you are safe. Start trusting that you are covered. Stop scanning for threats. Start focusing on alignment. Stop living in defense mode. Start living in purpose, because God's favor is not just something you have, it is something that has you. Why you don't need to fight back. Chosen one, this is where many of you exhaust yourselves unnecessarily. You think strength means constant vigilance. You think spiritual maturity means always being alert, always praying against something, always defending your ground. But true authority does not chase threats. It remains established. You don't need to fight back because God never asked you to become your own defender. The moment you start fighting everything you sense, you step out of rest and into anxiety. And anxiety is not a fruit of faith. God did not call you to live on edge. He called you to live anchored. Darkness expects reaction. It feeds on emotional responses. It studies patterns. When you panic, overthink, or try to retaliate, you reveal your attention. And attention is energy. But when you stay still, when you remain focused on your alignment with God, you starve the strategy. There is a reason God often tells His people to be still. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is clarity. It means you trust the one who sees what you don't. It means you know the battle is not yours to manage. Chosen ones who fight back too much end up spiritually tired. They mistake awareness for obsession. They confuse discernment with suspicion. But discernment is calm. Suspicion is restless. God never called you to constantly monitor darkness. He called you to walk in light. You don't need to confront every spirit, every person, every intention. Not everything deserves your response. Some things dissolve when ignored. Some battles are won by refusal to engage. Another reason you don't need to fight back is because retaliation lowers your frequency. It pulls you into emotional territory where darkness has experience. God operates from authority, not reaction. When you remain peaceful, you stay positioned above interference. Notice this pattern in your life. When you stopped explaining yourself, things resolved faster. When you stopped defending your name, truth surfaced on its own. When you stopped reacting emotionally, people revealed their motives. That is not coincidence. That is spiritual law. God also fights differently than humans. He doesn't rush. He doesn't panic. He doesn't expose everything at once. He allows situations to unfold until truth becomes undeniable. That process requires patience, and patience requires trust. Chosen one fighting back often comes from fear of loss. But what God has assigned to you cannot be stolen. What is meant for you does not require your anxiety to protect it. It requires your obedience. You don't need to prove you are strong. You don't need to show resistance. You don't need to announce your authority. Authority announces itself through results. There are moments when God will instruct you to speak, to pray, to act. But those moments come from clarity, not fear. From peace, not panic. From obedience, not insecurity. You will notice something powerful when you stop fighting everything. Your energy returns, your mind quiets, your focus sharpens, you sleep better. You hear God more clearly. That is because you are no longer scattering yourself across unnecessary battles. Darkness wants you tired, distracted, and reactive. God wants you rested, focused, and aligned. So choose rest, choose trust, choose alignment. You are not passive, you are positioned, and position beats effort every time. Next, I want to show you something comforting. The signs that God is actively protecting you even when you don't realize it. Chosen one. Let me add this carefully because some of you are still equating peace with passivity, and that misunderstanding is costing you rest. Not fighting back does not mean you are unaware. It means you are secure. It means you trust God's judgment more than your emotional impulse. It means you know when to move and when to remain still. Stillness is not silence without awareness. Stillness is silence with authority. Many of you were trained by life to react quickly, to defend, to explain, to prove. But God has been retraining you, teaching you that not every disturbance deserves your response, teaching you that calm is not surrender, calm is command. When you don't fight back, you deny darkness the drama it needs to survive. You deny it access to your emotions. You deny it the satisfaction of knowing it affected you. And that frustrates every strategy formed against you, because strategies collapse when they are ignored by the one they were designed to provoke. Some of you noticed that when you stopped engaging, situations resolved themselves. Conflicts lost momentum. People backed off. Pressure eased. That wasn't avoidance. That was wisdom. God was showing you that you don't need to step into every situation to be victorious. Fighting back also keeps you tied to what God is trying to remove from your life. Attention creates attachment, and attachment delays release. When you release control, God accelerates resolution. Chosen one, there are battles you were never meant to fight because they were never meant to reach you. God intercepts before engagement. He dismantles before confrontation. He redirects before damage. And when you try to fight prematurely, you interrupt his process. This is why rest is not optional for you. It is strategic. Rest keeps you spiritually clear. It keeps your discernment sharp. Exhaustion blurs perception, and darkness loves a tired mind. God does not need your stress to protect you. He does not need your worry to prove your faith. He does not need your hypervigilance to validate your calling. Your obedience is enough. Your alignment is enough. Your trust is enough. There will be moments when God asks you to speak, to pray, to confront. And when he does, you will feel peace, not panic. Clarity, not confusion. Confidence, not fear. That is how you know the difference. So if you ever feel pressured to react immediately, pause. If you feel anxious to defend yourself, breathe. If you feel the urge to fight something unseen, step back. Because, Chosen One, the fact that you don't need to fight is not a weakness. It is evidence that God is already fighting for you. And when God fights, nothing needs your help. Signs that God is actively protecting you. Chosen One, God's protection is not always dramatic. It is often subtle, quiet, and easy to overlook if you don't know what to look for. Many of you expected protection to feel loud, visible, and obvious. But God prefers precision over noise. And when you understand the signs, you'll realize He has been far more involved in your life than you thought. One clear sign of God's protection is delay. You wanted something quickly, but it didn't happen. At the time, it felt frustrating, even painful. Later, you understood why. That delay saved you from stress, harm, or long-term regret. God blocks timing when the outcome would damage your peace. What felt like rejection was actually restraint. Another sign is sudden peace during chaos. When situations around you fall apart but your spirit remains steady, that is not emotional numbness. That is divine regulation. God stabilizes your inner world so external chaos doesn't control you. You may still feel concern, but you don't collapse. You remain anchored. Have you noticed how people sometimes expose themselves without you saying anything? Lies unravel. Intentions become obvious. Masks fall off naturally. That is protection. God reveals truth without forcing you into confrontation. Silence allows exposure. Protection also looks like redirection. Plans change unexpectedly. You feel an internal nudge to take a different route, delay a decision, or cancel something last minute. Later, you realize something negative would have happened if you hadn't listened. That guidance is not coincidence. It is divine intervention working through intuition. Another sign is resilience that surprises you. You survived seasons that should have destroyed you emotionally. You didn't come out untouched, but you came out intact, still believing, still hopeful, still open-hearted. That endurance is not self-generated. It is sustained by God. God's protection also shows up through removal. People drift away, opportunities disappear, relationships end abruptly. At the time, it feels like loss, but often God is removing what would have drained you, delayed you, or harmed your spirit. Protection sometimes looks like subtraction. Chosen ones are often protected from knowledge as well. God does not show you everything. Some truths are revealed gradually to preserve your peace. If you knew everything happening behind the scenes, your mind would be overwhelmed. So God filters information. That is protection. You may also notice that attacks lose momentum quickly. Issues arise but don't escalate. Conflicts dissolve without resolution. Pressure fades suddenly. That is divine interference disrupting completion. Another sign is clarity after confusion. You go through seasons of not understanding. Then suddenly, things make sense. Lessons click. Patterns reveal themselves. That clarity is protection guiding you forward with wisdom instead of haste. Chosen one, protection also looks like boundaries you didn't set yourself. You feel disinterested in certain environments, conversations, or habits. That is God narrowing your focus. He is protecting your energy. Finally, there is this. No matter what you face, you return to center. You don't stay lost. You recalibrate. You realign. You find God again. That return is the strongest sign of all. God has been with you every step of the way. And when you see these signs clearly, fear loses its grip. Now, let's close this with something important. A final reminder to stay aligned, stay rested, and stay covered. Chosen one, let me add this final layer to help you recognize protection even in moments you once misunderstood. Another powerful sign of God's protection is interruption. Things don't always go as planned. Conversations get cut short. Opportunities suddenly disappear. People change direction without explanation. In the moment, it feels inconvenient. But interruption is often God stepping in before something harmful can fully unfold. He disrupts what looks good on the surface but carries hidden consequences beneath. Protection also appears as emotional distance. You may notice that certain words, opinions, or attacks don't affect you the way they used to. What once would have triggered overthinking now passes through you without attachment. That emotional insulation is not indifference. It is growth under God's care. He strengthens your inner boundaries so external noise cannot control you. Some of you have been protected through exhaustion. That sounds strange, but it's true. God allows you to feel tired so you slow down. He allows fatigue so you don't push yourself into environments or decisions that would drain you further. Rest becomes a shield when ambition would have exposed you. Protection also looks like unanswered questions. God does not rush to explain everything. Some understanding comes later, when your heart is strong enough to receive it. Clarity delayed is not denial, it is mercy. You may also notice that even when people attempt to misunderstand you, their version of you never sticks. False narratives fade. Accusations don't hold weight. That is protection guarding your name without your defense. Another sign is your ability to forgive without forgetting the lesson. You don't carry hatred, you carry wisdom. That balance is protection. It keeps your heart light and your discernment sharp. Chosen one, notice this too. You are often guided away from unnecessary battles. You lose interest in arguments. You disengage from drama. You value peace more than proving a point. That shift is not weakness. It is God elevating your perspective. And finally, protection looks like this. No matter how many times life tries to knock you off course, you are always guided back to God. Your faith may bend, but it never breaks. You may question, but you always return. That return is not your effort alone. It is God holding you steady, even when you didn't realize you were drifting. And that, chosen one, is the quiet evidence that you have never been walking alone. Conclusion. Stay aligned. Stay covered. Chosen one, take a deep breath and let everything you've heard settle into your spirit. You were never imagining the protection. You were never overthinking the peace, and you were never weak for feeling what others couldn't explain. Witchcraft did not fail because it wasn't real. It failed because God's favor over your life is greater, stronger, and final. You are not surviving by chance. You are being preserved by purpose. What was sent to slow you down only clarified you. What was meant to confuse you only strengthened your discernment. What tried to touch you was stopped long before it could stay. And much of what God blocked, you will never even know about. That is how complete His covering is. Your role now is simple. Stay aligned. Stay grounded. Stay connected to God. You don't need to monitor darkness. You don't need to replay attacks. You don't need to prove anything. Peace is your confirmation. Rest is your signal. Clarity is your reward. Remember this always. What God favors, He protects. What He protects, no human intention can override. And what He has chosen, no witchcraft can cancel. So walk calmly. Love deeply. Trust fully. You are not behind. You are not exposed. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where you need to be, covered in ways you may never fully understand but will always benefit from. If this message brought you peace, clarity, or confirmation, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this spiritual rest. And comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are aligned, protected, and walking confidently under God's favor. Stay chosen, stay covered, stay at peace.